Up next here we have solving inequalities. So the biggest thing and the only real difference here between equations is we have to remember the rule that when you multiply or divide by both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you must flip the inequality sign. So the reason for that is if we had an inequality statement that was true, like 6 is greater than 1, for example, that is a true statement. But if I were to multiply this by -1, now 6 times -1 is -6. If I keep my greater than sign, 1 times -1 is -1. Is -6 greater than -1? No, that is false, which is why in order to make it true when we multiply by a negative, we have to flip this sign to make it -6 is less than -1. Now that is a true statement. So solving, just like we always do, we use opposite or inverse operations to isolate the variable and make sure you're doing the same thing to both sides. So here we've got -18d is less than or equal to -54. D is being multiplied by -18. The opposite is to divide each side by -18. My 18s cancel. I'm left with D. We divided by a negative, so I need to flip my inequality sign. -54 divided by -18 is +3. When I am graphing, I am just gonna pick a range of 10 that fits 3. So 3 falls between 0 and 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 is right here. Since it has the equal to part, it is a filled in circle. And as long as our variable is on the left side, like it is here, my inequality symbol points in the direction I need to shade. So I need to shade to the right. This is where the values are greater. And if you double check, if I plugged in, for example, 5, is 5 greater than or equal to 3? Yes. If I plugged in 0, is 0 greater than or equal to 3? No, that's why it's not shaded. Okay, number 2. X is being divided by 3. The opposite is to multiply by 3. On the side with our variable, it cancels. We're left with just X. We have our inequality sign that we bring down. We weren't multiplying by or dividing by a negative, so I don't need to flip it. And over here, -14.2 times 3 is going to be -42.6. What I like to do to make it easier to graph is I flip it around so that my variable's on the left. So X on the left, -42.6 on the right. Since I flipped that around, I also need to flip my inequality symbol around so that that point stays with the X. And we have a decimal value. This is a range of 10. So since we're looking at tenths here, I'm just gonna have each tick mark represent 1/10. So I'm gonna make this -43 and make this side -42, which would mean 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. So -42.5 would be right there. So -42.6 is here. There's no equal to part, so it stays an open circle. Again, since our variable is on the left side, that means our arrow points in the direction we need to shade, which is to the left. Because X is less than, this is where the values are less than. Two-step inequalities. First, we get rid of our constant. So we have -9. I get rid of that by adding 9 to both sides. On the side with the variable, it cancels. We're left with n over 4. Bring down our inequality sign. -15 plus 9 is -6. And is being divided by 4. The opposite is to multiply each side by 4. On this side, it cancels. We get n. We were multiplying by a positive, so we don't need to flip the sign. Negative 6 times positive 4 is negative 24. Our variable's already on the left, so that's going to make it easy for graphing. I'm going to find a range of 10 that negative 24 fits between. It fits between negative 20 and negative 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 25. So 24 would be right here. There is no equal to part, so it stays an open circle. And since our variable's on the left, our inequality sign looks like an arrow pointing in the direction we need to shade, which is to the right. Because these values are bigger than negative 24. Number 4. Two-step inequality again. First thing we need to get rid of is our constant. We have positive 120. I'm going to get rid of that by subtracting 120 from both sides. On this side, it cancels out. What I have to be careful with is this subtraction is going to stay with that 2n. So we have a negative 2n. That's really important here. I bring down my inequality symbol. 26 minus 120 is negative 94. Okay. Now we are going to divide. We've got n being multiplied by negative 2, so the opposite is to divide each side by negative 2. On this side, it'll cancel to just n. Since we divided by a negative, we need to flip our inequality sign. And then negative 94 divided by negative 2 is positive 47. I like to rewrite my inequalities so my variable's on the left. So I'm going to flip-flop these, the n and the 47. But since I flip-flopped that, I need to flip-flop my sign as well, because I need that point by the 47. I'm going to find a range that 47 fits between. That's between 40 and 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 45. Which means 47 is right here. There is an equal to part, so it is a filled in circle. And since our variable is on the left, our inequality symbol points in the direction we need to shade, which is to the right. That is where the values are greater. Okay, number 5, a multi-step inequality here. First thing we need to do is distribute. 2 times 4x is 8x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Bring down the inequality sign. Then we've got negative 78 that we bring down. Now we're at a two-step inequality. Let's get rid of our constant. We're subtracting 6, so the opposite would be to add 6 to both sides. On this side, it cancels. We're left with 8x is less than negative 78 plus 6 is negative 72. Last step, x is being multiplied by 8, so the opposite is to divide by 8. So we get x is less than negative 72 divided by 8 is negative 9. We didn't need to flip the sign because we were only dividing by a positive number. So let's find a range that negative 9 falls between. That would fall between 0 and negative 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5, which means negative 9 is right here. There's no equal to part, so that means that it is an open circle. And then our variable is already on the left, which means the inequality symbol looks like an arrow pointing in the direction we need to shade, which is to the left, because that is where the values are smaller than negative 9. Last one, another multi-step inequality. I'm distributing negative 6, so be careful. Negative 6 times positive 4x is negative 24x. Negative 6 times negative 8 is positive 48. Bring down our 18x. bring down the inequality sign, bring down negative 54. Before I move anything to the other side, I'm going to simplify. We've got positive 18x and negative 24x, which is negative 6x. Bring down the plus 48, bring down the negative 54. Now I've got a two-step inequality. If we are adding 48, the opposite is to subtract 48 from both sides. Negative 54 minus 48 is going to be negative 102. Bring down our inequality symbol, bring down negative 6. X is being multiplied by negative 6, so the opposite is to divide each side by negative 6. This side cancels. We're left with just x. We were dividing by a negative, so we need to flip our inequality sign. Negative 102 divided by negative 6 is going to be positive 17. Let's find a range that positive 17 goes between. That would be between 10 and 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 15. 17 would be right here. 17 is, the inequality has an equal to part, so we fill that in. And this, when I'm writing this, I like to have my variable on the left side. So I'm going to flip x to the left, 17 to the right. Since I flip-flopped those, I'm flip-flopping my sign so that that point stays pointed at the 17. So when I look at this, my inequality symbol now is pointing in the direction I need to shade, which is to the right. X is greater than or equal to 17. This is where the values are greater than.